Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our third session for the week, using the COABE Behind Every Employer Guide, getting beyond the first meeting. We have Karen Govan with us today to present on the topic, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. And welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting me to be part of the National Apprenticeship Week. You know, at COABE, we have a great workforce committee and a team behind every employer. And what a great network that we have in trying to help the field and being committed to serving not only our partners and our students, but also the employers. And so this is what's so great about this whole National Apprenticeship Week. So what we're going to be doing today is kind of going over some of the guidebook, and at the very end, I'll have on there the link to the guidebook, so everyone can at least get a glimpse of that and have an opportunity to kind of look at what we're doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself, I'm going to hide myself because you don't necessarily need to see me. And so that we can just kind of look at the PowerPoint and to get everything going. So my name is Karen Govan. I am the Senior Director of Workforce Development at MySide, and we switched from MySide. We used to be Southwest Economic Solutions. We're located in Detroit. We're a nonprofit. We have a variety of programs. You know, we are an American Job Center. We have a Title II school. We do a lot of job training. We have Youth Build, and we also have a great homeless veterans reintegration program that kind of does the whole Southeast Michigan area. So a little bit about me. And I've had many opportunities to work with employers. And so I'm super excited to be able to present and to share a little bit about the book. And hopefully you'll gain some information that you can use when you can apply when you're trying to meet some new employers. So overall, the purpose of this agenda is to introduce you to the guidebook and to really take a step back, kind of do some self-reflection on where you stand in your program and why you want to expand, and have those serious conversations with employers. So it's a toolkit, and it really is not necessarily an end-all, but it has great ideas and it has great resources to make sure that you have all the things that you need to consider before meeting an employer, so that you can have all your little I's dotted and your T's crossed. So we're going to try to go over the tools. We're going to understand the language of employers, which is so important. Do a little self-reflection on where you stand. Think about challenges and opportunities, and create your next steps as you move ahead. So we've had this great presentations this week. It's just been wonderful to participate in all of them. But now we're going to actually take a step back. Most of them geared towards, hey, you've got an apprenticeship program, or this is what you can do. We're going to take a step back, and we're going to focus on how do you create that initial first meeting and getting you prepared for your ask. So that's kind of really, really important when you're thinking about where you're at, why you want to meet with them, and what do you need to do. So if everyone can, like in their chat, if you could kind of just put down on a scale of 1 to 4, like number 1, I am totally new to this. I really haven't really engaged with any employers, to number 4, where, you know what, I've got great employers that I work with. I even have an apprenticeship program. So if you could in chat, just kind of put down where you're at. Great, I see a lot coming in. Oh, a lot of 1s, they're new. 3, oh great. Denise, I see Denise is a 2. So good, as they're rolling in, this is kind of gets me a really good feel about where we're at, so we can kind of really slow down and kind of take a minute, and you can always drop in chat if you have questions or something that you want clarification. Again, this is just kind of going through that guidebook that we have that's available at COABE. So I really want to start with the beginning. So this guide was born from a document drafted 20 years ago. And of course, we can roll our eyes because this is the way education is, isn't it? Something that, well, we used to do this a long time ago, but then it changed and then it came back. I mean, if you can see just the evolution of education, some curriculum, it always does that. It goes through these cycles. And so 20 years ago, this guide was created, and it was called the Business Impact Primer. So you'll see in there when we talk about business impact model, some of the terminology. So fast forward, last year, Anson Green presented it to our workforce committee and to COABE, and he was like, hey, you know, I've been working with this document. It's been really great, and I think right now this might be a really good tool to reintroduce it. And so we had the committee look at it, and I just took it right away because I thought, oh my goodness sakes, this is probably one of the #1 questions that we always have. How can we talk to employers? How can we engage employers? Because it really is it's really hard. And we're not employers, we're educators. So it really is like a whole new world talking to employers. And so we took it apart, and I kind of fixed it up. I added some graphs and charts. I added checklists, and then Anson took it. And it was so funny because we were thinking about making this kind of like a small little tool that you can just whip out, you know. But when we started going through it and Anson started going through it, we started adding more and more and more to it, giving examples, scenarios. And so it came up to be a pretty big size guidebook. And but again, I think it's a great tool. So many resources, so many things you can read over and over again, and so many places where you can sit back and kind of reflect at where you're at. So again, it comes at a critical time, especially when we talk about WEO and transitioning our participants from education to workforce. And also because the big word out there and the big programs out there are, you know, your IET, ILCE, and also just the apprenticeship programs. So again, I guess the guidebook, it's several chapters long, begins with just understanding your position and the language of employers. It has multiple chapters. It covers questions to ask at your first meeting and things to consider. It ends with an appendix, and there's some assessments, and it's like a couple checkoff lists that we'll probably go through in the slides for you to do some self-reflection of where you're at and if you're ready to rock as you enter your first meeting. So you're in adult education. You want to help your students. Sometimes we just say, well, wait a minute, all I really need to do is make sure they got their, you know, ESL, they're, you know, tested out, or hey, they got their high school equivalency and I'm all done. But really, what is your goal? You really want to, you're here because you want to make that employer engagement. You really want to make that connection. You want to help your students transition. Most of them are coming because they want to get better careers, they want to better themselves, or maybe they know that if they get their high school equivalency or their diploma, they can kind of get a better job or a pay upscale at their place of employment. So kind of what is the goal of meeting with an employer? Are you going to help with employment? Do you want to help the employer as well as your student gain a job? Do you want your employers to help them because they can then maybe hire or retain them? Do you want to promote your participants? You know, what is that goal? Is it centered on employment? Maybe it's centered on apprenticeship programs. You really are into this and you think there's nothing better than, and this is where there's a lot of great opportunities for funding to create an apprenticeship program. Maybe you have a pre-apprenticeship program. Hey, I'm kind of dabbling with NCCER or MC3, and you know, how do I take it to the next level? You know, do you want to focus on employment, upskilling, kind of job training? Like, what are you doing when you're thinking about an apprenticeship program? And how do you get that employer engagement, not only to look at your curriculum, but also to help with employment? Or are you in it for workplace literacy? Do you see the need to help employees upskill? Maybe you have a huge factory and you know that some of these people, this is an entry level, some of them are coming in, they might be low level in basic skills in math and reading. Maybe they're English as a second language. Do you want to go in there because you think that this is a great benefit for their employees to gain that literacy skills? So kind of think about what is your goal? Understanding what your end goal will help you determine your conversation with employers. And you really need to make sure you know what you want, because you sure don't want to enter a meeting and go, well, I was thinking this, I was thinking that. You don't want to be wishy-washy with what you want to do. So employers don't necessarily have the time to, um, they don't have the time, and they want to see a strong partnership. So they want to see the common end goals. Sorry, my phone was ringing, my gosh. Of course. So take a minute, stop and think about, what are your goals? Why are you getting into this? Why do you want that employer engagement? And then you also need to think of, is what is the benefits of the, oops, sorry, I went back too far. Previous. Okay. What are the benefits of working with employers? You must have thought about this. We're always thinking about relationship with employers. It's probably the most difficult task because we're in education. We have all these acronyms. We know it in and out. We talk about MSGs. We talk about EFLs. We talk about the NRS tables. We talk about CASAS or TABE. These are all foreign words to employers. And so we need to be able to understand not only our benefits, but what are their benefits. So what is the benefits for working and moving towards a partnership with employers? Is it working with our participants? We know that it isn't enough just to say, hey, goodbye, you got your diploma, we'll see you later, good luck, thanks for attending. We know that we need to have those career path navigations, or we need to have those systems in place. We need to have that connection so that they know that there is an end all, and that this really sells your program. Not only are we going to give you the skills that you have training with, but we can also make that connection so that you can get ready for that first interview. Again, maybe we're going to look for an apprentice. We know that this is a big training, and this is a great way to segue into getting a paid work experience while they're getting their education. Maybe we need to think about contextualizing our curriculum. We have a great training. We want to work with employers because we know that there's this company that's here. Maybe we need to use some of their tools with reading and math because we want to make it focus on a specific trade. You want their expertise to help them with your curriculum. And you may have students that are ready to transition into employment. If you're doing some type, that there's a company that hires a bunch of high-low workers. Well, maybe those are some of the things that you want to talk about. There's some great software programs and there's some great curriculum out there, but maybe you want to have it specific to that company. What does their manual look like? What are some of the vocabularies that you're kind of unaware of? Or maybe the benefit of working with an employer is just your community ties. You want to partner with them maybe at a different level. That would be great if they sponsored some of our programs, if they were part of our board, if they kind of, if we were able to understand how they can help us with some of their things that they do. For example, we have a group here in Detroit, My Locker, and so they are great when it comes to swag. So we actually have great ties with them. Not only do we help them find and vet employees, but we also use them because this is where, when we need to order our mugs or our lanyards, they're just really great to work with. And especially because we changed our name to My Side. So it was great to have that connection because, not only are they a great partner to work with, but it was easy for us to take that shift, and now everyone has a t-shirt that says My Side. So we all have some, all the employees here are ready to go with the name change. So maybe that's what you want with them. So what are the benefits of working with an employer? And everyone has their own reason of why they want to have that conversation with employers. So again, here we're talking about this mind shift, the bottom line benefits for employers. What do we need to do? We're educators. Again, we speak a different language, and we have to take it and we have to think about employers. It's not going to be self-centered on, this is our program and we can fix them. This is what the employer needs, and how can we shift and change to what they need to help them. So we're talking about retaining workers. This is a big bottom line problem for employers, and this is something from their perspective. Hey, we have turnover, it's costly, it's very difficult for us to keep a good frontline and entry-level workers. How can we target adult education services? Can adult education services reduce that and help us retain our workers and help us grow? So that's kind of one of the benefits that employer sees. Hey, if I'm going to work with this, this is a major, major, major issue that I have. So think about that as well. How can I help them? Finding or developing a skilled talent. Employers are always looking for talent, especially now with thinking about technology and automation in the workplace. If you go into McDonald's now, it's really difficult for you to even go up to the counter and to order a meal because they have these kiosks where you have to go and prepay, and then you get your receipt, and then they call out your number. So they don't necessarily need to have that front line, that beginning entry, but they need to have someone who might be able to work with that automation and be able to understand the systems now as it changes. And then also, we have a lot of skilled immigrants. How can we help them alleviate that pressure and get them in there so that they can help? So the employers already know the company and their culture, and it's how can we sit there and help them develop that skilled talent? Increasing safety and reducing accidents. So how do we do that? This is an issue for businesses. Effective training, maybe they're looking at, hey, we've got a lot of issues, maybe our participants are low level, maybe they're immigrants or they don't read. How can we do this so we can reduce accidents? Because then we have worker comp issues, we have lawsuits, and we really get a negative reputation. So these are issues that employers face. Another is increasing customer service. Wow, a lot of them, they just don't have that customer service. They don't know how to talk to their customers, or maybe they don't understand. So you might have a company that you want to work with that might be in hospitality. They might be in the motel, hotel business. And so you might have the people that come in and clean the rooms and change the towels. How can you help them so that they can interact with customers so that there isn't any accidents or incidents that happen that might be just because of miscommunication? So there's a lot of challenges. And so how can you develop and help them? So think about that when we're talking to employers. Becoming an employer of choice. This is really what they really strive to be. They're competing with all these other businesses. And how can you make it so that, and this is what they're focusing on, how can I have them so they're going to come to me first? They're not going to come and want to work with this agency because, they hear this company does this and this company does it. And I am sure that all of you have experienced that. I know in our company, we have had businesses that will be, they're almost the same as we are as a nonprofit agency. How can our businesses work and keep what we're doing, but also know that there's another company down the road that does the same thing, and maybe they pay more, or maybe they've got a great reputation because they have this type of benefit. So companies are always, always, always in competition. And so we always have to be aware of that. And also, how can we deliver our services? Of course, all businesses think that at low cost or no cost. We want to make sure that we can develop a skilled talent, but really, we have to think about the bottom line. We have our profit margin. We're out here for customer service. We're out here for a product. And how can we provide benefits that are at no or low cost to our company? And so these are things that companies think about. So mind shift, here we're always thinking about, well, we can help them with this. And really, because we're agencies that are always civil kind of service, we're kind of thinking about people and social service aspect, that we don't really have that business mentality. So what does a successful collaboration include? So businesses come in a variety of levels. Some of them probably never even knew that there was an adult education program. Some of them probably never even knew or even considered working with adult education programs. And so what we compiled was kind of like, these are probably the most successful collaborations. These are the different types of businesses and kind of what they see as how they can fit in and how you can start that conversation and that partnership. Some businesses just want a seat at the table. They want to be partners. They don't want to be bogged down with details. They want to share the designs and needs, because remember, they're not educators. We'll get into a table and we'll get into a conversation, and then they'll say, I'm really thinking about how I can help with customer service, and boom, right away we're sitting there talking about maybe curriculum, or we've got this, or we can do this, and we can do that, and they're like, whoa, 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 I'm not, I'm just telling you that this is what I do. I want, to kind of give you a kind of what our needs are and what I'm looking for, and not necessarily, to hear all your jargon. Customization, a lot of them, can you create a program that will support them? Remember, it's all about them. It's not about us. We see benefits at the back end that they don't see, but how can we customize to meet their needs? And remember, you have to understand what they need, because sometimes we'll say, oh, that's what we need. This is going to be the solution, but it might not necessarily be it. So you really need to create a program that supports them. Think about long-term planning. That's what they're looking at. This is not just, you're investing a lot of time into this, and they're investing time in you. So we don't want something that is just one and done. We're all done. Let's wrap it up. It didn't kind of like, I don't know, like, what do you think about the future? We're not there. So we want to make sure that this is a long-term collaboration that you have. They also are looking about, wraparound services and support. Yep, you provide this, but man, you come with a lot of other things that you can bring with you. Maybe you have a lot of other partners with nonprofits that you can provide some barrier mitigation. Hey, we're connected with American Job Center. Oh, we work with so-and-so company, so we can make sure that all your employers can get, bus passes, or we can, help them with food. Maybe there's, we can get them connected with uniforms. So they love that you have a lot of wraparound services that can help them. Performance impact. The bottom line is, hey, they don't necessarily care about your EFL, but are you going to help my business? Are you going to help that customer service? Are you going to help me because they need to know digital literacy? They're just not technically savvy. How are you going to help us? So what is that impact on their performance? So these are kind of what we're looking for, businesses are looking for. So let me give you a case, like a study, an example. So when employer partners are highly satisfied, they often will, hey, let's do some more work together. Let's work with other companies because you do this, and I bet this other company can really benefit because I talked about what we do. So here's a story of a disconnect. So a nursing home worked with a provider to help the facility large immigrant workforce learn to speak English. So here we're coming in, we've got this great ESL program. So we gave them a 26-week ESL program. And so we had 16 participants, successful. They reported all the time. They really, really liked it. Great EFL gains. This was a win-win for us. Post-test scores were improved, at least 2 levels, and it just was a success for us. But however, the employer said that, wow, kind of looking at back and reflecting, they were happy about their improved English skills, but they really still had challenges talking to their supervisors and the residents that were in the program. So the workers were making the same mistakes, even after the program was a success, after the 26-week program. So the problem is apparent. So we kind of came in and we said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to help them. We're going to give them their English skills. We're going to make them so they can move that EFL. But really, what was the issue was that we didn't really listen to them when we talked about, having the customization. We didn't talk about what they needed was that vocabulary. We didn't see what they really needed to help them improve what their communication skills were in that place. We didn't look at manuals. We didn't look at customer service. We didn't look at how they were working and interacting with their customers. And so it really, while we said win-win for us because, not only they employed, they got they improved their EFL, but for the company, we still had the same problem. We didn't really get what we wanted out of it. And so do you think that that company will want to collaborate again? Do you think, let's say, whoops, let's figure this out. We don't know how much money was put into this. We don't know the conversation with, did they pull them out of work or did they pay them to go to classes? So things like this could be a real hiccup and kind of can set you back on the collaboration process. When we talk about, again, about the value and talking about the employers, so what is the impact? So kind of made this little graph here to show the business language. We can be very effective. This is how we fulfill our purpose. This is the impact model. But the business model is, how do you create value for customers? Because the bottom line is they just want to make sure that they're satisfying their customers. They're looking at that bottom line. And so right there, that impact right in the middle, that's that sweet spot, your lasting impact, where you're going to make that impact with them, not only with the employer saying, wow, this is exactly what I need to help me. It's a win for you because you might have improved some of your numbers, but it's a win for them because now they have they're able to serve their customers better and their employers are engaged and excited. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Hey, how can we fulfill our purpose and also that create a value for the customers? So that's what we were looking for, that little sweet spot, that common sectionality. So this is another way to look at that business impact model. And this, I'm sorry, it's kind of small, but I hope you can see it. So if you look on the left at the table, it says how employers measure impact. This is what they're looking at. And we had talked about it before when we're talking about what they want, how they can collaborate, how you can help them, and talking about their business language because it's really employee-centered. And then what do they mean? What are employees looking for? When we sit there and say, this is how they measure impact, this is what they're looking for. So the cost of doing business, there's three things. They want to really retain their workers. They want to get recruit new workers, and they want to develop that skilled talent. So this is the cost of doing business. This is what's coming to them that they know that they have to do. And that's probably the biggest cost that they have is their employees. How can I retain them? How can I get some great new workers? And how can I upskill those? And the next one that the impact is just really customer satisfaction. What is that quality that we're providing that's going to make our customers want to keep coming back to us? How do we increase customer service? That's what they're looking for. And then how do we measure impact? Productivity, efficiency, and safety. Do we have the capacity to migrate to digital automatic work environment? Do they understand that? Can we train them to be technically savvy? Can we develop a safer minded workforce? And then competitive stature. Hey, we want to be an employer of choice. Just does this benefit for their employees? Can we do it? And of course, just like every other program, can we do it at no cost? So kind of looking at this and understanding, hey, if I wanted to be an employer of choice, what does that look like? I want to be the one that they go to. So this is what employers, this is how they measure impact, and this is what they mean by it. And so how does that shake out for us? Well, when we look at what's meant to align our goals in education. So we looked at this. How do employers measure impact? What does that really mean when employers that they're looking for? And then how can we tie this with an adult education services? So the cost of doing business, back in the last slide, we talked about, well, it's about retaining workers, recruiting new workers, finding or developing a skilled talent. Well, what does that mean for us? Is it something that's in-house? Is it a career pathway for your students for vetting? So you're going to give them some and help them recruit new talent? How are we going to do that? Well, we do this, we can pre-test, we can help them upskill, or we can make sure that the participants that we have in our program can transition to their program knowing that these workers are what they're looking for. So that's a benefit for us, and that's how we can tie in. Quality and customer service satisfaction, of course, employers are looking for increasing customer service. What does that mean? we go back to some hospitality, or maybe that front desk person, maybe that person at the store. It's all about that customer service, and that, because it's where the rubber hits the road, where that person, that employee meets that customer. Maybe it's making those EFL gains in English language. Maybe it's increasing their math and reading scores so they can be able to really do their job efficiently and better. And then the customers, they can understand the customers and help the customers. Maybe it's productivity, efficiency, and safety. Can we develop the capacity to migrate to digital or automatic work environment? Hey, maybe our education services can help them because we can give them computer literacy classes. We are great with digital literacy. We've got it down pat. We can help them so that they can be savvy and feel comfortable with the tools. And maybe for a safer-minded workforce, it's that reading and English skills. Maybe it's in our English language classes, or maybe it's that math and reading, because now they'll be able to understand all the controls, or maybe they'll be able to understand safety regulations in a manual. So we can help them. Competitive stature in the market share. How can we become an employer of choice, providing a benefit for their employees at no cost? So we can test them, we can give them credentials. It's a winner-winner if they get a credential and then they get an EFL gain and they get employment. So there's a lot of extra points that we can do just by becoming that employer of choice, because it's a benefit for what they're doing and what we can do to help them. So does anyone want to drop in any in chat? Maybe we can take a couple of minutes and just kind of come up with, what are some, when we talk about the education services, what are some ideas that we can do to helping them find or develop a skill, talent that you can do and you can provide them in adult education? How can you increase customer service? How can you develop a safer-minded workforce? And how can we do that knowing this is what employers want, this is how they measure impact, and this is the service we provide? Any ideas? You do, you can just drop them in the chat. All right. So we've kind of got the mindset now. We really understand where employers are at. And now the next step is to do some research. We changed our mentality. We got it. We understand the business impact model. We understand that, like Copernicus, the world isn't centered around adult ed or, the planet or us. It's, it's got to now, we have to shift it and focus towards the employer being the center. So one thing that we have to do, which is really important, is to research. You have to know that company. You can't come in blind saying, oh, we know about it because we heard about it and because you're down the street. We know that you hire so many people. Really understand who they are and what they do. And so these are just some ideas that are listed that were in the guidebook. Review annual reports. What are their products? What are their services? What is their market share? Who are their customers? What are the key products or service lines? What's their company size? What is their annual revenue? And what is their product line? If you know that, like this is their top line, this is what they're known for. What's their position with other companies in the community too, or within your community? Are they the largest employer? Are they really the skilled trades? Do they really get low-level entry? These are things to really think about. We had a company in one of the former places that I worked with that was a cabinetry program. And so we knew a lot of our workers, a lot of our alternative and adult education workers work there. And we thought, oh, we really need to set up something there with them, because we know that probably a good percentage of that frontline, the first entry level, they do not have their high school equivalency or their diploma. And so, how can we help them? Has the employer had prior relationships with any adult education programs or workforce programs? If they have a great relationship with other adult ed programs, how'd that go? Or what did they do? Or who are they at? Because that might be an ally or someone that you can talk to get some more information. Has there been any prior relationships with American Job Centers or youth groups? What were the results? Again, these might be really great allies for you to know that. Who are the primary contacts for prior relationships within the company and the workforce development system? So who is that? Is it that HR? Is that contact person? You know, who is that person that you need to make that connection with? So really, really, really think about your company and really do some research so that you kind of get a really grasp about it. Because when you meet with them, you want to be able to understand where they're at and talk with their language. And there's much more. You know, what is that current industry trend? So you're thinking, oh, I've got this cabin, you know, this program that's this business that's a cabinetry. Well, you know, it's not doing so well. They're really, you know, people are buying things and they're, you know, doing it in Amazon or they're going to this and this. So, you know, it's not doing that well. The trend is that, you know, it's just not a hot jobs anymore in that track. So what are the opportunities that the industry is trying to take advantage of? And what are the problems, you know, the current projected, what are they grappling with? Is there something that you need to know that, you know, I'm not sure about this. They've always seemed to have a really high, not a low retention rate. What's going on? And that's sometimes when we talked about it previously, this is where, you know, hey, do you know someone who knows someone that maybe that could be your ally so that you can get the 411 or the scoop about that company. We've had major companies that we've worked with here that their turnover, we know that their business is booming and we know that they have their entry level positions are kind of low level. So we've worked with them and they're, oh, you know, we're working with you. We want to work with you. We're union based, you know, this is really great. But then when we kind of understood how their business ran and what they're grappling with the retention, and we decided that this probably wasn't a company that we really wanted to work with. We didn't see their business value, and even if we tried to help them, the mindset of what they were looking for and who they wanted to recruit kind of really wasn't aligned with what we were doing. So we took a step back. So it's great to do that research because we came in like, yep, we know this is a growing industry. There's going to be a demand. We can really help. And then after looking at their overall program, we thought, you know, I don't see the benefit for us, and we didn't see that as a great partnership. And so we took a step back. So look at their workforce too. So it's not just about their company too. What is that labor market information? What is their employment numbers by job categories? Hey, do they have a lot of electricians? Do they have a lot more building trades? Do they need a lot more CDAs or CNAs? So look at their employment numbers. Also, the projected pipeline of new workers, like are they expecting a certain credential? What's it look like? You know, what's it look like in 5 years? You know, what does it look like in your community? We did a report here in Southeast Michigan, and we found that there's a lot of graduates that are coming, but they're leaving the area. So the projection for those that are living here in the community is kind of low, and so this is what the employers are dealing with. How are we going to get those new workers? How are we going to get those graduates? How are we going to get these people to stay here in this community? And how can we get them to want to work here and live here? Looking at their retirement, what is the workforce for this industry? Is their company aging? You know, what's the average age? And again, these are kind of critical because, you know, if you've got a huge retirement coming on, then you know that they're going to be looking and vetting for more people in their workforce. So these are questions to consider to getting ready to answering some questions for your first meeting. What are the skill levels and or educational levels of the workers? So I'm ready, I'm thinking, I've done my research. What are the levels of the people that are working there? How long do the workers stay in each job on average? You know, what's the retention rate? Are there career ladder opportunities available for workers? You know, what's that pathway? What's it look like? You know, how can we help that if we're going to work with them so that we can help them move up that pathway? What's the nature of the job? What is the shift schedule? What's the managerial vibe like? What's the authority and the autonomy and the interaction? Do they work with just the workers in-house or do they work with customers? So kind of getting an idea of the nature of the job so that you can get a feeling of how you can customize and help them with what their needs are. How many workers do you have in each job category? You know, what's the projected vacancy rates? Again, that goes along with just retention, but also with growth. What's the impact of these programs have on your business too? So again, you have to kind of self-reflect and do that. You know, is their program going to be something that this is something that I necessarily want to tackle? So that's why it's important sometimes to reflect on your program. How does a program impact the quality of your product? You know, is it job training? Is it something that you want to do? Is it something that you have to reinvent? It's something that you want to do that aligns, something that you don't want to have to like, oh, I'm going to have to create a whole new program just to help them. Maybe that's not necessarily what you want to look at. Do you have the curriculum or agility to create a new program to fit the business? Not your program, but their program. Like, what do you need to do? Can you change up a curriculum quick enough to say, yep, I've got this high school equivalency program. I've got a great teacher, and I think I can take this math thing that you need to know, and I think I shift it so that while they're learning how to do a tape measure, they're actually doing geometry. So there's a lot of different ways that can you change your curriculum. Do you have a history of success and satisfaction with different businesses? And then what's the cost? Remember, businesses don't want to have to really pay. They really want something at no cost. If this is going to cost you a lot, then this might not necessarily work for you. So other potential questions is location. Where will the classes be held? Do you have a location? Are you going to be on their site, or are they going to come to you? Or maybe it's just there's a community center that's close by that maybe you can use so they can come in before or after work. I had a program that they wanted us to help with them. And so we went there and we were targeted to start classes. And I said, well, where do you want to have the classes? And it was right in the middle of their business where they were working. And it was major sewing and where they do the t-shirts, what they do and anyway, it was so loud. And I was like, how can we in the middle of this hold our work readiness or our financial education or our ESL classes? I said, it's way too noisy. I was like, there's just no way. So it was kind of being there, looking at that, thinking, okay, this probably won't work. Maybe we need to figure out another day or another location. And so that was really interesting to have that conversation and to be able to understand that location does make a difference. Is it paid or unpaid? Is there going to be a release time? It can be difficult. Some participants, the employees will have to keep working. And so if they're not going to be released, they're not going to probably take time out to go to classes. We had a program that we were working with that did the bumpers for Camaros. And so they really wanted us to come in and do an English as a second language class. And so we got to them, they were talking about, yep, we're going to release them. We've got this and this time. You can use this room. We're going to give everyone who participates a t-shirt. And we're thinking, wow, this is super great. And so we got everything all set up. And then they said, oh, well, you know what, we found out we can't really give them t-shirts and we really can't release them. So you're going to have to be here at 6 o'clock for shift change or at 6 o'clock in the evening for the next shift change. And we're like, whoa. This is where we talk about the MOU in the future, in the other slide about, making sure that you have that all set up, because now it falls back on us because we're ready to rock and we've got everything set. And now we have to find a teacher who wants to come in there at 6 a.m. to teach. We were lucky that we had teachers that were willing to do that, at the different shift change, but it sure changed the dynamics. And what we thought we would have a whole lot of students turned out to be, in our first initial cohort, it was pretty small. And so things like that, you just want to make sure. And also, of course, look at the curriculum. Can you use some of their manuals? Can you use some of their tools? Because if they need some help because they're having a hard time understanding, then I'm not going to sit there and use my beautiful venture series. Give me something that I can use that will help with what you need. So in the guidebook, in the back, there's a couple, in the appendix, there's a couple things. One of is an employer checklist. So this kind of gives you an idea checklist. Hey, you as working with the employers, have you identified their needs? Do you have knowledge of vacancies and job needs? Do you understand if are they going to do paid time for training? Is there job shadowing and mentoring? Is there a space? Is there time to evaluate? Does this help advance the employees? So these are kind of checkoffs that you can do internally with each employer. So you can sit there and say, this is XYZ employer, and I've, checked off everything that I think that we need to do, and we're good to go. And then, of course, you as an adult education program, here's your checkoff list. Do I have the ability to have flexible scheduling? Oh my gosh, I have to be there at 6 in the morning. Oh, I'm over at GM Center and their first shift starts at 5:30. Are you going to be able to be there? Can you align your program with them? Do you have an instructor that can do this? What is the space needed? What are the tools that you need? So this gives you a chance to also check off with each of the employers and where you're at. So now you're ready and you're ready to go and you're ready for the meeting. Again, you can cold call them or you can have allies. You've done your little research, you're in the background checking them out. You might have connections with employers to get your foot in the door. It doesn't matter how you do it. You have done your research and you know where they're at. And so you have it all together, you understand their needs, and so you're going to meet with them. Just remember to keep focused on the needs and be able to talk about the services and what they need. Do not talk about EFL. Don't get into that slippery slope of talking about all that you can do, because you want to be that solution provider. And do not assume that you have all the answers too, because it's really hard. So an example that we give in the guidebook is that here we go. We sat there and we talked about your employment. They've got the business, they got the skills, you've got, but did we really understand what their issue was? So here's an example. A large West Coast welding company that services the oil and gas industry reached out to the Workforce Board for assistance in supporting their growing number of skilled Spanish-speaking welders. Welding was an area where they were very confident. We were in a community college. The director was an industrial science department that included welding. They had the dean of department, so we really knew our welding. So to prep for the meeting with the welding company, we met with the welding team. We started doing our homework to prepare questions. We assumed that there was a need for ESL that addressed areas like safety, working orders, measurements, just all that we needed because we know our welding in and out. So we're excited. We felt we were well prepared for the meeting. So when we met with the business, we had a very good initial discussion and tour. When we got the portion of the meeting about the actual needs of the business, we talked about our plans. This is what we're going to do for you. And the CEO was impressed, but he just thought, I don't know if that's necessarily what we need. So towards the end of the discussion, he said something that was like, oh, here we go. You taught us a very good lesson. I think everything you described is well thought out and really appreciate it. It looked like you've done your homework. We probably do need to support in some of these areas, but what I really, really was looking for was to just to come in on a Monday morning and tell me how the weekend was. They went on to, the CEO said, hey, we're just a small company. We really, really, really wanted to build our culture and community. We really wanted to get to know the workers at a personal level, and they thought this was a great way to do it. It wasn't necessarily that they needed the skill set, but what he really wanted to know was just how to understand their culture and to have that conversation. So what he really wanted was an ESL communication class. And so here we are talking about welding and taking care of all that when we really, really didn't listen to them. And we came in thinking we had solved their issues, when really what he wanted, after we gave them all that we could do, was, hey, how can we just do some communication classes? So that's what's really important, is to really listen to it, come in with the background, come in with some ideas, but you're not going to, at that initial meeting, have all the answers, and you're not going to, at that spot, be ready to rock. It's going to take a lot of meetings, a lot of preparation, and a lot of give and take. So we had talked about, when I had that great meeting and we had our great interaction, it was the MOU and MOA. I can't stress the importance of an agreement. Even if there isn't money on the table, it's just a good tool to use to negotiate commitments. Hey, XYZ is responsible for this. You know, ABC is responsible for this. So everyone gets a clear definition of the agreement and understanding. You know, the worst thing you can do is to sit there and read something afterwards and said, oh no, I said I was going to do this, or, you know, it's written on here we're going to do this, or I didn't say I was going to do this, or I thought we had talked about this and I don't see that. There's going to be many edits, many clarifications, and for some you might want to take it and have your lawyers look at it too, because there's always an indemnity clause, or there's something that I'm not going to be held responsible in case there's an accident, or I want a 60 days or a 30 days notice if I need to pull out. And so an MOU or an MOA is really, really, really an important tool that you need to have with any partnerships. And I'm sure a lot of you already have that if you have a lot of collaborations and partnerships with other organizations. So here we go. We are so successful in what we're doing. We are now going to sit here and think about an evaluation. Thinking about sustainability, thinking about, hey, how can you sit there and collect some data, or how can you even know how effective we were? So we have to look at the evaluation, and we kind of broke it down into 4 different levels, and it really moves up into the intensity of what we're doing, and some of it not necessarily can be captured with a simple survey, but it kind of gives you a reflection and actually makes you think about when you're preparing it, because sometimes it's good to look at your goals and evaluation and then kind of work way back to see what you're doing. So the level 1 is really basic. Hey, were the participants pleased? Did they stay there? What do they plan to do with what they've learned? Did you accomplish what you needed to do? And hopefully, yay, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, everyone got level 1. Level 2 is, does the employer feel as though their concerns have been heard? Has there been ample time and resources for ongoing evaluation? Did you kind of do that a midway, kind of see, hey, is anything need to be done? How's it going? How's it shaken? And then what skills, knowledge, or attitudes have changed? Hey, did we get some skills changed with this? What our training incorporated? And then level 3 is, how was the employer's capacity changed? In what areas? So now we're getting to the deeper where we're supporting the employers and maybe some of their goals when we think about their impact and what they want. Did the participants change their behavior based on what was offered in the programs? Is this behavior what the employer was looking for? And then level 4 was, how's behavior change recognized and measured? How does this behavior change make an impact on the company as a whole? And by how much? So these are really from simple, yep, we've got our participants that are pleased, to really, did we make a change and a shift in the way the behavior of the company or in the employees of the company? And so again, level 1, make sure that even if the participants were pleased, it's also, was the employer pleased? Because remember the last one we read where, yep, they were super pleased, they got it, boy, that they really knew how to improve their ESL, but they still didn't know how to talk to customers. So when you think about level 2 or level 3, we really didn't accomplish what was needed. So you need to sit there and think about the evaluation. Another way that we did it, and we included this in the guidebook, was the PDCA, which is a great tool. And it's a great tool. I think it's always like, and I don't know if some of you are like, I can go back to my preschool days with plan, do, review, and the high scope model. Like, hey, you're planning it, you're checking on it, and you're acting on it, and you're thinking about what happened. So your plan, what is the problem and what is the project? So you plan out your project, you plan out what you're going to be doing, and then you do it. Sometimes you have to take risks. This is a great program. We're doing it. This is what we're doing. We're rocking it. And then check. Sometimes you have to check and do some data. You know, you're going to do that program. You're going to do that mid-year, test scores. You're going to see how the data is working out. What does your retention look like? You know, what's the impact that you're doing? And then you can act. Maybe you have to stop and think about it. Did it work out really great? Do I need to make some changes? And that's all right, because nothing ever goes according to plan. There's always barriers for participants. Something always happens. You know, hello, we've had COVID for 2 years. So things happen. And so can you make those changes? So that's always a good way to do that. And then also, so when you make those changes, then you turn back around and then you replan what your project is, and then you do it again. So this is always a cycle. So always think about that in mind too, is that you can't just sit there, and I'm sure many of you don't do that, but you can't at the end go, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the data. Oh, what happened? You should always be checking constantly to see how things are going and use different tools, whether it's surveying your students or talking to them or doing some quantitative or qualitative data collection. So make sure you do that. And of course, what's next for me? Keep the communication open, always ready to engage with employers. You have an employer who would be a great partner. You've done your homework. What we do sometimes after we've had success, or even if we don't have a program, we still want to keep in contact with the employers. So we have a lot of different ways that we engage our employers. And one way that we found really successful is that we have a breakfast before business. We have these quarterly meetings. And this is kind of a network session. So we have guest speakers. We kind of do this QR code. Hey, click on that. Give us some feedback on what you think about this meeting. What are some kind of trends or some things that you want to talk about? And so we've had speakers talk about immigration. This is a big thing in Detroit. How do I hire someone, or what are the steps to do that? What's the difference between a refugee and an immigrant? And then we had MRS. They talked about disabilities and their services. You might have someone that comes in and you might not be able to help them, but we can help them and we can help you. We had American Job Centers come in. Hey, this is our services that we do. Do you know that we can help you hire employees? We can help vet who you might need. We have job fairs that you can participate in. We also had Reskill America come in and talk about your job description. Hey, you know what? Maybe it's your job description. Maybe you need to fine tune it a little bit. Maybe it's you're asking for that unicorn. So helping them and having that conversation and really just breaking bread. They really just love coming in, and some of them come in from all over. And we always host it here, and we're located in Mexican Town, so they absolutely love our breakfast burritos and our food. And so they look forward to it all the time. And what started out was, we thought, just an introduction kind of meeting. We're going to start it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to end it at 9 o'clock. It's now 2-hour long meeting. And they are really engaged, and we've invited some trainers. We've invited some other nonprofit agencies to share about what they do. And it's just now what we started off with, probably 8 people in the meeting, and a majority was like our staff, to now we have over 30 that's in attendance. So once they hear about it too, they know people that want to come in, and it's just really great to have great conversation and get to know them too. And so there's different things that you can do to engage the employers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be work, but it can be, how can we help you too as an organization, and how can we collaborate together? So, and some of the employers that we have, like banks, and they actually, when we have events like volunteering events, like we have a beautification day and all that, they actually want to come and help too, and help clean and all that. So great partnerships and collaborations. So I think, wow, oh my gosh, it's almost 3 o'clock. I thought I am. So that is my presentation. I really, really, really want to thank you for attending. I know we covered a lot of materials in this guide. It is an awesome tool, and I appreciate COABE and Lindsay for being here and letting me, and for hosting this National Apprenticeship Week and moving adult education along and having that conversation of engaging employers. It is a long, long, long process. It really can't be done in one, but it really helps to get your homework done. So the link to the guidebook is right there at coabe.org, behind every employer. Please download it, take a look, read it. Some of the things you'll see from my PowerPoint that I kind of covered. But again, thank you so much for participating, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and I hope you have some wonderful conversations with employers. Thank you.